Hey, what's up, guys? So I'm Brew here, and I was watching the stream today, the one that Wargaming has on their website for the EU finals, I believe. I can't remember. I kind of clicked off of it a while ago. I don't exactly remember. But I was watching that, trying to get the rewards and stuff, and then they dropped a little bit of information on me. And they said that the STG is coming out soon, and that is something I've made a video on. But they also said there's going to be a new Tier 7 Premium Light Tank coming into the game along with the STG. Now, I don't know if they're going to be bundled together, but I decided that I was going to be making a video about the new Tier 7 light tank, and it is called the M41D. Now, I'm going to be playing the preview video of both the STG and the M41D along in the background while I talk, and I'm going to discuss the M41 Walker Bulldog stats because it is literally, it's the same tank. I don't know if it's going to end up being a reskin. Judging by the video, you're going to notice that it doesn't seem to have quite as good mobility as the M41. Now, I don't know why it wouldn't, because the M41, I mean, it's super fast. It has 72 top speed with 25 horsepower per ton. But something like, here, let me pull this up. Something like the Leichte Kampfpanzer M4190, I probably butchered that, has only a 23.7 horsepower per ton. So it's a lot less mobile than the actual M41. And by the looks of just the vehicle model itself, it appears to be slightly up armored, actually having side skirts and just generally a little bit bulkier of a tank. So it might be like an M41 with a little bit more armor, of course. But anyways, I'm just going to go quick brush over the stats of the M41 and just generally so you can get an idea of what the new light tank's going to be like. So here we go. All right, so first of all, the M41, one of its main features is the DPM and just the gun in general. Now, the stock value is 3.84 second reload, giving it 2,500 DPM at Tier 7. And keep in mind that it's a light tank, so it's able to zoom around the battlefield. And with my setup that I have on it, I actually have a 3.3 second reload on it. And that's crazy. I mean, you're able to rip apart your opponents. It's like a turreted E75 that's actually just a little bit faster even. And it's been a lot of fun. And that's something that I made a video on recently as well. I revisited the tank because I didn't like it before, but just gaining knowledge and being a better player in general has helped me to actually enjoy the tank because I don't YOLO in it anymore. Now, the M41 actually lacks a little bit on the penetration values, being 155 on its standard rounds, and on its Primo it only has 200. So definitely, anytime you're going to be up against Tier 8, you're going to struggle a lot trying to penetrate them. And, you know, as it's Tier 7, you're probably going to meet them a lot, especially if you get up-tiered like I do. Now just onto the weapon handling. It has 2-second aim time and 0.32 dispersion. Now this is pretty good. I really like the gun handling on the M41. It's not the best in the game, but it's very good for a light tank, and it's along with the 10 degrees of gun depression and the 20 elevation, but mostly just the 10 degrees because usually elevation doesn't come into effect too much. Anyways, the 10 degrees of gun depression and the nice gun handling is really, really good for being flexible in general, being able to work a ridgeline. But keep in mind that basically everything's going to go through your turret. A lot of turrets, even with the gun mantlet, like especially American tanks, they have a lot of weird gun mantlets. You can still fire HE at it, and it usually pens. That's how unarmored this tank is. So definitely keep that in mind. But like I said earlier, it looks like the M41D might actually be slightly up armored, but just a tad slower. So we're going to have to wait and see until the stats are actually out, and definitely expect a second video whenever they are. Now on to the mobility. Okay, once again, I think it's going to be slightly slower than the M41, but it's probably going to retain the top speed of 72 kilometers per hour and 24 backwards, but it's probably going to have just a little bit lower of a horsepower per ton. Most likely the same power to weight, or not power to weight, I'm done. Most likely the same amount of engine power itself, but it's probably going to be a little bit heavier, dropping the power to weight down just a little bit. But this is all a hunch, keep that in mind, because it could just be a reskin. I don't know, but judging by the side skirts that you can see, and just once again, the model in general, it looks a little bit beefier than the actual Bulldog itself. Now, the M41 has really, really good terrain resistances, giving it an effective 51 horsepower per ton, which is amazing on hard ground. So the ability to get fast and start moving it's amazing, but I don't know if we're going to be able to see stuff like that on the M41D. I definitely hope that we're going to be able to see that kind of horsepower per ton performance, but for the last time, I'm not sure about that. And then finally on to the weight, it is 21 tons, and just the armor in general, it is 25 all around on the front, the sides, the rear of the turret, the front and the sides of the vehicle, but actually 19 on the rear of the hull. And it's just everything's going to be able to go through it, even on the weird gun mantlet, because usually American tanks have kind of like weird, bouncy, odd gun mantlets. It's still like you could just fire HE haphazardly, especially if you're in a high HE pen tank like SU-152, for example. It's just going to be able to go right through. And a couple times I've HE penned them through the mantlet, and not just the turret, but through the mantlet. So don't expect to bounce too much or really get away with doing anything like that. And lastly, onto the hit points themselves. 1,000 hit points on the M41 means that you're very vulnerable to being one shot at tier 7 from things like the Smasher or SU-152, for example, because they both have, I think, 960 alpha on their HE, so they just need to roll a little bit high and one-shot you, or two one-shot you, rather. And the number of times I've done that to a Bulldog is insane, especially with the amount of armor it has. It's not very hard to find a chance to be able to one-shot one and just get an HE on them in general. And this whole concept is reflected down here in the stats. In the Blitz Stars 90 day, the survival rate of the M41 is 25%. Now the win ratio, the average one, is 50.3, which is not bad, but the survival rate of 25 is super, super low, and it makes sense. It really does, just because it's such a fragile tank and it's really hard to stay alive, especially at tier 7 whenever you have things like Annihilator, Smasher, and just general broken tanks in that realm. But anyways, this has been my preview on the M41D. Now my last impressions. So far there's nothing out that I can really base this on, this like other than the stats of the M41 itself. But it looks like it's just going to be a slightly slower, maybe a little bit more armor M41, but this is all just a hunch. And if it is what I think it is, if it is that slower but a little bit more armor, it's really not going to be that good. I'm predicting it now because all the M41 has is its mobility. It has a really good gun, like I said earlier, but honestly, its mobility is the only thing that's able to keep it alive. And even if you have just a little bit of armor, the shape of the tank and everything combined, it's not going to be enough. It has to be like a lot more armor, and at that point you're going to be a lot slower, and it's not worth it because it's trying to play the role of a medium, but I don't think it's going to be able to unless you add any kind of spaced armor, which it did have skirts on the side, but I don't think it's going to be anything super special. Honestly, I don't think I'm going to end up picking it up myself, but if you guys want to, whatever floats your boat. And as I said earlier, I will be making a video on the actual stats as soon as they come out. I'm going to be checking every day to make sure, and as soon as I find them, I'm going to try and get a video out so you guys can get an idea of whether or not you want to buy it. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I really appreciate it if you would leave a like or a dislike. Be honest and tell me if you left a dislike, tell me in the comments why. I'm always trying to improve. And yeah, make sure to subscribe too, because I only have 24 at the making this video. So all right, anyways, see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.